My parents disowned me from the family because of the decision that I had made to marry a Black man when George Floyd was murdered. And we were sitting around the kitchen table and our young adults were still living at home. And it just, the conversations were very heavy. He did say, I'm just really glad that I can talk about this now. Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better.
Hey, Queen. Welcome to the She Elevates podcast. I'm your host, Liz Rankin, your favorite elevation bestie who's been through it, healed from it, and came back stronger with a mission. This podcast is your safe space and soul sanctuary where we talk real about relationships, motherhood, money, mindset, and everything in between. So if you're ready to reclaim your power, reconnect your purpose, and rewrite your story, let's get into it. Hi, Joan. Welcome to the She Elevates podcast. I'm super excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
I am great, Liz. Thank you for inviting me. I'm also equally as excited to be here.
Yay. I'm super thrilled. You have a very powerful message. You have a book. You've had a beautiful journey. We've known each other for quite some years now, and I'm super excited to share that with the listeners of the She Elevates podcast. So why don't you fill them in a little bit on who Joan Green is?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, congratulations to you on your podcast. This is such good work.
Thank you.
So needed in this space. So thank you for putting our voices out there. I think that's really important for people to know. So I am Joan Green. I'm a mom. I'm a wife of now 34 years. We have 3 adult children. Always a weird thing to call them children, but young adults. um, and we've been on this journey where I personally have had to found myself in a place of doing quite a bit of reflecting on who I was bringing to our family relationships. And so anyways, over time, I've worked in all kinds of industries. I've been in retail. I've been in early childhood education. My full-time job now is working with people with disabilities and supporting them in advocacy. And then, of course, then I kind of stepped into this world of really talking through relationships and how we navigate race and all of those things. So in a nutshell, I'm just a woman navigating her way through all the things, just like most of the people that are listening to your podcast, I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for sharing all of that. It sounds like a beautiful journey. It sounds like me as well. It's where like I wanted to dip my toes over here. I want to go over here. And I think that's a beautiful thing. There's a lot of mentors and coaches out there, just society in general. It feels like they're like, you need to focus on one thing. Why are you going from here to there to there? Because it's exciting. And there's something, the women's intuition and just following what our gut is telling us to go with. That's so beautiful. I love that you listen.
Thank you. And I agree with you. I think it isn't, I think the word I've heard a lot of is reinventing yourself. And it's not so much reinventing, but it's staying relevant and finding the thing that brings you the most joy. And that does take pivoting and that does take adapting and change. And I think women are very good at it. Especially if you've been a parent, that's your life anyways, is changing and adapting. Right. So you're right. I think we need to give ourselves a little bit of credit too, that we can do these things all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps things exciting. Like who wants to be stuck in doing the same thing for your entire life, right?
It does.
And, I feel like even women, like every week we're going through different phases with our bodies. Like, of course you can change after a few years.
Yes, that's a whole nother podcast,
I know. We are going to get a perimenopause expert because that's like what I'm going through right now. And I'm like, there's so many unanswered questions. So we will have that coming. Let's talk about where our friendship started. So myself and Christina, we have we've got too many things. Okay. We have ebooks, we have memberships, but our core theme is parents and caregivers of mixed kids with curly hair.
Right.
And the way that we started our business, we were being parents, navigate. I've got a little bit of curls, but these are kind of waves, but our children have much, much more curly hair, as does Joan's children. And so we stumbled across you. Actually, I think you were in a were you in Kathy Heller's
Yes.
membership?
Yes, that's right.
Hellner?
Yep.
Yeah. So how strange. I'm just like really thinking about this journey. How strange that we connected and we live like maybe 20 minutes away
I
from each
know.
other.
What a small world. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then you came in and we've had a lot of great conversations.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about the background leading up to that point of the subjects that we're discussing
Yeah,
today.
for sure. And I think, you know, at that point I was married about 28 years to Kevin, and the backstory, which, we could go way back, but I think in reflection I'm realizing there's more to the backstory than what I realized in the moment. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
when I met Kevin, we both had other relationships, and we kind of realized very quickly that this was our person. And I shared with my parents on just a casual conversation that, I met this guy and we're seeing each other. And I described him and told my parents he was Black. And my dad pulled the car over on the side of the road and he was like, "Do not do this. Don't go any further.
Mm,
This is not happening." And so at that point, of course, I was like, "Yeah, of course, we're just friends," and all the things you do when you're in your 20s.
yeah.
But I knew, and Kevin knew, and so we ended up getting engaged, and that was when my parents disowned me from the family, because of the decision that I had made to marry a Black man. So fast forward, and there's a lot in between it, but that time was awful and tough. And I think
Yeah.
I think when we got married, I can certainly share how we got to that point. But to answer your question more directly, I think once I realized I was married to a Black man, like, I get that, right? And so when
Mhm.
years go by and we have kids, and I just kind of did business as usual, and marriage is hard anyways. So we were working
Yeah,
at being
right.
married, working at having kids, and it wasn't until 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, and we were sitting around the kitchen table, and our young adults were still living at home, and it just the conversations were very heavy, and
Yeah.
I could sense that there was more to this. Certainly, I was devastated. Certainly, I was upset that these things were happening. And it wasn't just him; it was a slew of Black people who were being mistreated and killed. Um, I felt bad, and I felt
Mhm.
horrible, but I had no idea the depth of what that means to the Black community. But I could see the change in my husband's face, and I could see our kids and hear them more vocal than they had been. And so that it was really the pivotal moment that started this journey to
Yeah.
write a book and to do all the things.
Yeah, what a powerful time in your
For
family
sure.
space
Yeah,
that maybe you hadn't realized the impact up to that
I
point.
know.
And like you said, marriage, raising kids, all of that is difficult as it
Mhm,
is. And your story of being with Kevin and your parents disowning you,
mhm.
that's a terrible thing for any child to
Thank
go
you.
through.
Yeah.
I had it much more easier now that I'm hearing what you went through. My parents just said, well, you could be friends with him, but there's nothing more. And
Right?
I couldn't imagine if they just disowned me and was
Yeah.
like, absolutely not my parents anymore. How did you navigate that area in your life?
Well, what's interesting about it is I think, again, in reflection, um, it was a year, and it wasn't like, 10 years. They did come around, so good news at the end, and they
Mhm.
absolutely adored Kevin, and so that part worked out. But I think at that moment, when I look back, I think my dad was more frustrated and angry that I lied to him, that I said it wasn't gonna go any further, and it did. And I don't,
Mm.
you don't always control love, so I think that
Yeah,
wasn't a
sure.
realistic thing for him to ask of me anyways, but whatever.
Yeah.
So that was part of it, and then he was concerned that we would have a rough life and that our kids wouldn't be accepted and all the things. And so I don't know in that moment that I was very good at trying to understand his point of view, and my mom was just supporting him 100%, and that was
Mm.
that was, hurtful, but also understandable, especially back in the day, and the way we
Right.
were raised.
The time.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
the way I navigated it was I just did it on my own. I certainly had some friends and all of that, but, like, when it came to trying on dresses, it was just me and one of my friends. When it came to making
Mm.
plans, it was just me, and I certainly had that dream that a lot of little girls have, to have a big fat wedding and those things.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that part was sad and stressful, and I definitely, there were a couple times where I was like, "Kevin, maybe we shouldn't do this." I questioned
Yeah.
it, but, as you and I are both women of faith as well, I mean, God works in
Mhm.
incredible ways, and there
Absolutely.
was nothing I could do to stop that piece. So the cool thing is that eventually we were able to talk our parents into having that "Guess Who's Coming to Dinner," which I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but it's hysterical. And
Great.
it was exactly like that. Kevin and
Oh my
it
gosh.
was something else. Kevin and his mom came to my parents' house, and my parents were
Wow.
very cordial and poised and gracious. Mrs. Green, or Mama, we call her, she walked in with all of her strength and power, and it was a meeting of these two, like, incredible forces. And then when we sat and
Wow.
talked, Liz, we were just all human, and we all
Oh my
yeah, so we
gosh.
sat in the room, we were human.
So
Yeah, and it
beautiful.
and it I mean, it wasn't perfect, it was a little awkward, but we got through
Sure.
it. Yeah, yeah, and we got through it, and then came out of that where my dad really rethought that he would be at the wedding at least. He did walk me down the aisle, which was lovely, and
Mhm.
it took them some time, but I give all the credit to Kevin's mom and to Kevin, who never stopped trying and embracing me, right? Like, they could have easily been like, "Forget it, this is too hard," and they were not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we got to the wedding, and the wedding was lovely, and, it all worked out, um, but it took
Absolutely.
some strength, I think, to get there for sure.
That's so beautiful
Thanks.
and such a powerful time for your family to be able to bond and
Yeah,
let those walls down and open up. Yeah, that was something I always questioned. Um, when you go back in times and
yeah,
what white people did to black people in slavery and all of this without getting into too much detail, very difficult conversation to have,
yeah.
especially as a white woman, not having any idea what that
No
feels
idea,
like.
right.
Yeah, you can never even relate. They can never explain it enough for us to even have a glimpse of how it feels.
Right,
But yeah, I similar to my situation, his his family was so inviting of me and my family not as much
yeah,
the opposite. And me thinking like analytically, I'm like, who's the side who should be mad at who? Like,
right,
I don't understand this.
right.
Why are you all mad at his family
Yes,
when they should be fuming with
absolutely.
our side? Just thinking analytically. And I'm just like, they're so loving and giving and open. And it was just beautiful,
Yeah,
like beautiful hearts just flowing with love. And that's what it ultimately
right.
should be.
No, I agree.
So,
Yep, and
how
I
powerful.
can't, to your point, like, I wasn't really angry at anybody because I didn't understand. Now,
Hmm.
20 whatever years later, looking back, I could see, to your point, his family had every right to be furious at the way my family was
Hmm.
behaving. My brother did share that he didn't think there was any way that that it would last, or that our kids would be accepted, and things like that. That just thoughts that when you haven't been married yet and you are thinking about it, those things are so intangible also, that I
Sure.
didn't know what to make of it or how it would resonate. Also, I am Irish and Catholic and stubborn, and I was doing it. I was doing it. That's what it was on my
Oh
heart.
my
I was doing
gosh.
it. So, regardless of any of
Yeah.
those things, and that could be part of my problem or my detriment at that point, was I didn't pause to think about the repercussions,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't want this to be any other way either. So I'm sort of glad that I just barreled through a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's like it's a positive thing. I feel like I'm also the middle child and I'm
Same.
like
Mhm.
see,
Yeah,
it's working. It's like, "Oh, you told me what? So I am really gonna work hard to prove you
absolutely.
wrong." Even at the gym, they have this quote on the wall at the gym that I go to right
Yeah.
now, and, what does it say? It says something like, "The biggest achievement you can make today is to prove the person who doubted you."
Right.
And I'm like, I live that every second of my life. I
Yes.
can't like I can't put that one down.
I know, but
Um,
why? But why? And I think a lot of women do that, Liz. Like, why do we feel we have
yeah.
to prove that person wrong? And yet I think that is so much the way we our mode of transportation a lot of times is to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I love where this is going. So the next step is children. We both have a
Yes.
beautiful you have 3, I have
Yep.
4, and they're just mine are just stair steps behind yours. Before I
Yay.
know it, they're gonna be out the house. I can't
No, don't
even
even.
though they're in elementary school right now,
Oh,
but I know I'm gonna blink twice and I'm gonna be like, "What
it
happened?"
goes so fast. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was it like? You are a white woman married to a black man and you are raising mixed children and um in really different times than what I am, right?
Yeah, yep.
You still had a lot of the social pressures, much more than I do now because my
Yep.
kids are 11, 9, 9, and 7 and
Right.
yours are in their 20s, correct?
27, 29, and 30. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're over there.
So what was that like
So,
for you?
I
How did
appreciate
you navigate
no,
that?
I appreciate you asking because I think, again, it's all in the reflection. Was nothing it was nothing. It was unfortunately, and this is
Mm.
where I own it and why I started talking to women like you and women who are married to Black men because I didn't really give it a thought. We moved to the location, the area that we live in now, because it's a highly diverse area. It's known to be that, right? And so I
Yeah.
think that was kind of the check the box. So my kids will grow up in a diverse area. They'll go to school with diversity, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah.
And never really considered after that point, what what am I supposed to be doing? Like what how after the
Sure.
role as a mother, how do I ensure that their Black culture, obviously the white culture was easy for me to navigate, right?
Sure. Right.
But I really in retrospect really did not spend time on making sure that they were infused in the Black or that they understood that
Mhm.
it's not really 50-50, right? You're 100% Black, you're 100% white. You choose where you land. You choose who you identify with.
Sure.
I've never had those conversations until after George Floyd's was murdered, and I think by then it was almost too late.
Mm.
Now it's an open conversation now, and as adults, we have the conversations, and I'm hoping that I know that with their own children, they will have that conversation a lot earlier on because no matter who they marry, their kids are gonna be biracial. Like, that doesn't
Sure.
right? So my
Yeah.
son, is he's biracial, so he married Lena. Their children are going to be biracial just by the sheer nature that he is. So there's
Mhm.
always gonna be a conversation. So when I think of, one of the things that I did is I ran a daycare from my home when the kids were little. So, like, thinking of parenting, right? I stayed home. I was there with
Yeah.
them. I ran a business out of my house so I could be with them. That all sounds
Yeah.
great, but I had in 10 years, I had 2 children who were of any other race. Both were Black. One was there for a month, and one was just after school, so, an hour a day and not probably 1 school year. So out of 10 years, in a diverse community where I had all the options to do all the
Yeah.
things, I never even considered seeking out other, um, cultures to bring into our home. Um,
Okay.
and so my comfort, my white privilege and my comfort was just naturally gravitating towards white people. And
Mm.
so my kids, learned to share, they learned to be friends, they learned all the lessons of having people in their home every single day,
Right.
and they never learned how to engage in other cultures. And, that isn't a school's responsibility. That is a family's responsibility, I believe in my heart. And so I think they were brought up well with faith, kindness. They were brought up with manners for sure.
Yeah.
All that. I'll take a little credit. My husband and I
Yeah.
great with that, right?
Right. You do get a
We
lot
get
of
some
you
credit.
get
They
more
need
than
it.
enough credit. And you sit here and if you raise your children out of love
Yeah,
and you teach them to do all things in love, it's almost like that should be the umbrella for
correct.
anything, right?
Correct.
Anything that comes up.
Yep, absolutely. So when we were sitting at that dinner that I referenced earlier and we were talking about it, that's when I realized that they didn't have a sense that as a parent for 20 some years, um, I didn't bring baby dolls of other like so on Kevin's side of the family, all of his nieces and
Mhm.
nephews have African American dolls and toys and books. But I never infused any of that. And I ran a daycare, right? And I ran preschool programming. So I just
Mhm.
didn't think to do
Didn't think
that.
about it.
No, it wasn't
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah.
intentionally left, left out. It was just not thought of. And so as I'm talking to them, and I did in the course of writing this book, especially this past fall before I was really going to publish, my husband and I sat down with them, and I asked them what would you have rathered, and they're like, well, I don't know if it would have. They said they didn't know if it would have been different because they still didn't know any better, but that
Sure.
they
Yeah.
will do that with their children. So I'm likening that to the fact that they are missing those conversations.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and the same
We
for my
always
husband
do
too.
the best.
Yes, we do. No,
What
you're right. You're right.
we're doing our
Yes,
best.
for
And what
sure.
did you say about your husband?
Well, I mean, I think for him too, it's the space of him having a safe space to talk about the things that were happening in our country. And yes, around COVID and
Yeah.
all of that time, but what about the 20 some years before? Um, and somebody asked me recently, so well, why doesn't he just bring it up? And I said, well,
Sure.
my understanding now is when you grow up as a black man, there you don't talk about those things. It is just what
Mm.
it is. It is you might talk about
Sure.
it with your family, but that's just the way life is
Yeah.
in the Black community, and so to have somebody stop and say, "How are you feeling about this?" and give you space isn't a normal or average thing, and yet, from what I'm gathering, it is welcome, and,
Okay.
and he's been able to really talk me through, but to talk me through how 400 years of oppression
Yeah.
translates to now. Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of learnings in a very short period of time that probably I should have had over a longer period of time, right?
Yeah, we live and we learn. And getting
Yeah.
back to like the dolls, like
Yeah.
they really didn't have biracial or even black Barbies for
Well,
the longest
you
time.
know what?
It's
You're
like
right.
the focus
Yeah,
was white Barbies, white
you're
baby
right.
dolls, and for that to even get out in stores
Yeah.
is very selective when your
Very
children
true.
were young.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And yeah, so giving yourself the grace, and it's beautiful that you've been able to see and have these conversations, like how hard
Mhm.
it is to must have had these conversations. And you're right, like men in general are just taught to not talk about their feelings, not have these conversations,
Mhm.
be the strong backbone of the family, and make sure everybody's fed and taken care of,
Right.
right? And
Right.
then the pressure of the mother is to
The
get
nurturing and all of that stuff. Yeah.
the nurturing, the caring, thinking that you have to give everything. And, so yeah, there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure on us. And for me, my biggest thing is I divorced when my youngest was 18 months. And I was like, how am I as a white woman going to raise these kids
Right.
properly? And honestly, I stayed for a long time thinking they need to have their black father. If they
Right.
can't just have one parent and she's white and she has
Right.
no idea how to integrate the
Right.
black culture into their lives. And I stayed for that was one of the reasons for a long time.
Yeah.
But then I realized there are ways. I surround them with plenty of different cultures, not just their own, and
Right.
they learn and we read about it.
Yep.
And we have our community of people, whether it's on Facebook, we're able to meet up
Yep.
and talk about these things. So
Yeah,
it's
and again, that's you did it though, Liz. I mean, that's I and I don't wanna keep going back, but, like and I think you're right. There weren't the resources maybe when my kids were your children's age, um,
or the awareness.
or
I
the
don't think there
awareness,
was
right?
the
The
because
conversation
nobody.
the conversation
Yeah,
out there, and
yeah.
even, us getting married, like, that still was kind of taboo, even though Loving Day happened a million years ago, even though it
Mhm,
was more
mhm,
prevalent.
mhm.
So just going through the motion and having interracial or biracial kids, I think, was still not quite heard of as much,
Exactly,
right,
right.
and so,
Yeah.
I think the other thing was talking to some women, the women that I did talk to at that time, and I had a Facebook group of about 40 women married to Black men, and,
Mhm.
most were local, some were gosh, one of the people who I've kept in touch with, her name is Jen, and she lives in Minneapolis, a mile from where George Floyd was killed. So, like,
Oh,
she was in it,
wow.
and her husband is Black, and she's white, and they have a biracial daughter, and her
Oh
story
my
is
gosh.
just incredible, and, um but I say that to say it was such a mixed bag. Some people are right where you are, where it was, I am determined to integrate this other culture into my children's lives. And then some of them women were more like, well, my marriage is good. I don't want to add any
Mhm.
ripples or currents of, of upset.
Sure.
So that was
Yeah.
the other bag, right? Like, just I don't wanna ruffle feathers, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate, so
Yeah, I don't wanna sit here and tell my children that the police officer is going to treat them differently
right,
than they would their mother.
right,
Like, how do you have that conversation?
right,
That's a very difficult conversation to even have.
right,
Mm, for me, I have been open, but what I will say, because now I'm looking back and I'm thinking the individuals or the research that I did do was because I'm researching about curly hair on YouTube. And
right.
then I get this video of a grown mixed woman, maybe in her
Mm,
20s, maybe the age of your child's
yeah,
age. And she's now putting content
yes,
online
yes,
saying, listen, I was raised and I wasn't taught about this.
yes,
And we went through all these things in school and I was bullied and I
yes,
was raised by my white mom
yes,
who like at least like you raised your kids in a diverse area and some people weren't
don't do
able
that,
to
right,
do that,
right,
right?
mhm,
And I think I have made the changes in my life because of the generation that is older and is able to reflect on that.
right,
If I hadn't had any of that, I wouldn't have known to integrate certain things either.
right,
So, yeah, I think the power between having these conversations and the children who are now grown
yeah,
and are able to share that message
yeah,
and pass it along, like that is what's making the ripple effect, the change that
right.
needs to happen in the world.
I
Um,
agree, and I think it's also for parents that are watching our children take those bold steps. It's really heartwarming, you're very proud, all of those things. So, they're in this generation, their voice is much louder than ours than mine was, for sure, and they have the capability, but to your point, technology and the algorithm do
yeah.
support that. So when you're researching, like you said, you're researching curly hair, it does start to show you other tidbits and tricks, and so, there's the positive side of a lot of technology too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And the power of
Yeah.
community and the power of us coming together and supporting each other. Where
Absolutely.
if there's less mixed children to be able to raise their voice like back
Yep.
when
I
your
can agree.
children were younger, how vulnerable can you be
Right,
when there's not going to be other people that are supporting you and understanding and saying, yeah, I went through that as well.
right,
Whereas now there's so many more mixed children that are able to say, wow, I'm going through that too. Can you
right.
help me navigate that? How did you deal with that?
Yep.
So,
Community aspect is huge. You're absolutely right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And, thank goodness for technology
Right.
because for people that are just stuck, they don't have the flexibility to move to a town with a diverse
Right.
population. And even when I'm looking at schools for my kids, I
Mhm.
am more quick to look at the diversity way before any ratings of the
Right.
school. Like you could be so low on the rating, you have to
Have to
have
have the
diversity
diverse
for my
population.
children.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So you started having much more conversations with your husband. How did those go at first? Were they difficult to navigate? Did you have to find kind of a flow? Did you have to back off at times?
Yeah.
A lot of times we say the wrong
Yeah.
things as white women,
A
not
lot of that.
knowing what to say.
Uh-huh.
And that can be difficult to even want us to speak. Then you're like, I don't even want to speak up. I don't want to say the wrong thing. So, what did that look like for
Yeah.
you?
So, it was a lot at first, because also as we're going the whole world was going through this racial unrest at that time. So it was just a very
Mm,
loud conversation. And what you hear or what I was hearing a lot of is that Black people don't want to be the teachers all the time, right? So falling back
mm,
on asking a Black person, so tell me about this. Tell me about the point, I guess the point I'm making and what I say in my book is we are responsible as white women, especially, to self educate, right? So I started there, and partly by talking with other people, partly by reading some books, and some I found very difficult. I think I shared with you, but I had a really hard time even finishing some of the books, realizing that my race had created such racial
mm,
disparity. But
yeah.
then, so when it came to Kevin, I tried to be informed first, and then I shared with him what I knew, and then I asked him if I was on track, and then that opened up
Great.
his space to talk and share with me. Also, there were things that he didn't know, and so what I found over the past 6 years is he's really dug into all 400 of the years, right? Like, he's really being
Wow.
understanding of where this cultural divide came from and how it happened, and so, that part has been really exciting and enlightening. And then he is teaching me in that as he learns something new, he shares. But back when we first started, I tried really hard to come in informed and have a knowledge of something I could ask instead of just generally, what don't I know? And also,
Sure.
to your point, I think a lot of times, and I suggest this in the book too, just pause and ask if it's a good time, and as women are, well, me, I tend to,
Mm.
I'm like a bull in a china shop. If I have something on my mind I wanna talk about,
Let's do
right after,
it.
yeah. Like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so sometimes that works if you're talking about a dishwasher or a garage door, whatever. But when you're talking about something so closely tied to this other person's heart, I did learn to kind of pause and ask, like, "Is this a good time?" How, or if I noticed, or if he was speaking about something, I would just
Mm.
really intentionally try to stop what I was doing, and I still do that.
Sure.
Um, I think it's hard every day to remember that because I'm also a woman of motion. I don't sit still very well. And
Yeah.
and
Hello.
I know you are too. We're twins.
Let's keep going.
It's really, really hard to pause. I don't multitask well, but I can do the dishes or do the this and that and listen. But when it's this conversation, I think it's really
Yeah.
important to pause and just be present. Not for a 30-minute dissertation, but just to gauge where your other person is in how they're feeling. Because
Sure.
we've said before, we can never walk a mile in their shoes. I will never know what it feels like to be Kevin. So if I don't
Mhm.
pause when those are the conversations he wants to have, then I'm kind of back where I started with, right? So those are the two things that I've been doing, is kind of trying to ask and then just stopping. If I have to put something down just for the first few minutes of the conversation to gauge where he's at, I try really hard to do that.
Yeah. I love that. What kind of feedback does he give you feedback? Does he tell you?
Yeah, at first, not so much. It just was what the feedback came because the conversation had changed, right? And so I was,
Yeah, and it's
yeah,
kind of new. It's like, what's going
new,
on?
and I'm hearing more about it, um, and we would watch, like, documentaries that I probably would never have watched before. Um, what
Mm.
This is a silly thing, but, like, watching Roots, um, took a whole new meaning on for me. And
Mm.
there's I some people might know, there's a movie called, Django, and it's
Mhm.
largely about slavery, and it wasn't, I would say, the first time we ever watched it was just a movie, and now it's a discussion point because there's so much
Wow.
about it. So those things have changed, and that's how I'm getting my feedback a little bit. I will say, though, just recently in the past 6 months or so, um, he did say, "I'm just really glad that I can talk about this now." It's so
That's
great. I
beautiful.
know, but it's so
It's gonna make me cry.
34 years. What is happening?
Oh,
I
yeah.
love
Time
that,
is nothing but a
I
number.
know, I know. I just imagine, I imagine how different things would have been for him maybe if he had had that space all along. And I know I can't do anything about that, but that's part of what I own in my heart, and I think, that's me being vulnerable, and that's me really I'm not seeking approval, and I don't want anybody to say, "Oh, it's okay." That's fine. I'm just, this is just how I feel. I feel like had I started those conversations early, regardless of whether all the things were available or not, he's always been Black, and I've always been white, and there's
Mhm.
always been a
Mhm.
difference. So at what point in time could I have stopped and said, let me learn more about our differences, right? Instead of just being a
Yeah.
married couple. So I'm coming to terms with it, and he's not angry. Um, Nobody is placing judgment on that. It's something that I kind of hang on to right now because
Sure.
um, I'm hoping we'll have another 30 years ahead of us, and I can just let him get all the things out. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. I also look at the perspective of like, if you didn't have that place of not having those conversations
Yeah.
and knowing what was going on, and to see you putting your heart and soul in understanding him, and he's watched you like
Yes.
put
He
the
did say
work
that.
in,
Yeah.
do the hard things,
Yeah.
have the conversations, get uncomfortable because nobody wants to get
No,
uncomfortable, right?
for
We want to
sure.
be stuck in our comfort zone. Like
Right.
you have to consciously make effort to be like, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going
All
to
the
talk
time.
to people about
I
this
know.
and possibly say the wrong thing
Mhm.
and then be torn apart,
Right.
right? And now you have a book and speaking about it,
Yeah.
like it can be scary.
Yes.
It's not it can be. It's so scary to talk about because you
Right.
don't want someone to you don't want to slip up and say the wrong thing. So I just, sometimes I look back and I'm like I would never take back the hard things in my
Sure.
life. Like
No, you're right.
yeah, it sucks that I was in an abusive marriage. And also, I love life so much freaking harder now.
Right. Right.
And I love my kids so much harder. And my future relationship, I will love so much harder
Right.
because of what I went through. And I
Absolutely.
just think of that, just like if someone didn't have a lot of money or grew up really poor, and then they work hard and they put the effort in and they grow and they grind and then they make it to the top, like, that feels so much more powerful
Really
than
does.
I was just had it all along,
Yeah, no,
to me.
no, I hear you. I think you're absolutely right, and, I am grateful for the path, for sure,
Yeah.
and I am grateful for what I'm seeing in my children and how they're watching me get through this also, and they're supporting, so, and it does make it that much sweeter, and also, Liz, I think I can understand it now. I don't know if I would have been
Yeah.
capable back 10, 12 years ago,
Mm.
15 years ago to have really
Yeah.
understood the need for these conversations, and I was either running a daycare or working a really big job where I traveled all over the place, would I have had the capacity to do it?
Sure.
So back to kind of the original in God's time, I know that this is the right
Yes.
time, and, it has been it's just been lovely, and I will always wish I had done it sooner, comma, everything that you
Yeah.
said is true too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They can both exist, both
Yep. For
realities.
sure.
That's something I've been looking at. I'm like, 2 realities can
Yes, you
exist. I think
posted about
that's
that. That was so great. I saved that one.
and both of them are true.
They're both true. Absolutely. Yeah.
One sounds so opposite than the other, but they both
They are
can be
both
true.
true. Right. Yep.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. So, okay, so we've talked about conversations with your husband. What do these conversations look like with your children, either when it started or now? How has that progressed?
So it's a little bit less overt, right? Well, first of all, they don't live at home anymore. It is
Mhm.
not they don't come visit and start talking about race. Like that's not,
Sure.
it's just not kind of how it
Yeah.
goes. And that's
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Correct. So I think for me, I'm showing up in a little bit more of a tactical way for them. Kind of a silly example, but we do one family vacation a year. We're very blessed to be able to do that. And we were on a beach and there was this group next to us. So, when you're on a beach, there's people here and there and everywhere.
Sure.
Huge group, probably 8 or 10 people, mostly guys. 30s, maybe early 40s, and then a couple women, and they were just laughing and howling and drinking and having a good time, and that was great, and we were listening to music, and it was fine, and then the
Mhm.
conversation turned to a whole bunch of jokes, racially disparaging jokes about Black people, and it just we're right there, like, we
Mm.
couldn't not hear them, we were 6 feet from them,
Wow.
and so I kinda watched my kids squirm a little bit, and they went out and got in the water, they came back, and nobody was resting, and nobody was playing card like, everybody was just a little and I said, "Are you guys feeling uncomfortable?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, this isn't great." And I mean, we're talking
Mhm.
15, 20, 30 minutes going on and on, and, so I said, "Well, do you wanna leave? It's fine. It's fine. We'll just leave." And so they said, "Yeah." So we packed up and left. So that I w as I was walking away, I was like, "Well, if I'm not teaching anything here, like, I'm letting my kids make their own decisions, that's great." But I went over and I stopped by the group, and I just said my kids are ahead of me, and they were already walking off, and I said, "I just want to say hello." And like we were sitting right here, and your
Mhm.
last 30 or 40 minutes of conversation was really offensive. And I
Mm.
would appreciate if you think in the future about your audience. Like, think who's near you. I said, my kids are
Yeah.
biracial. You're disparaging everything they know about their father's culture. And not thinking about the fact that this might hurt somebody's feeling or might be a horrible conversation. And of course, they weren't terribly receptive. They were, drunk and whatever. And I just said,
Yeah.
I'm not passing judgment on you. I just want to say these words so that you can give this some thought for the
Right.
future. And then I left and I wasn't mean or rude, but like, so I'm trying to do little things like that when I'm with them. So if I see something, say something. I know that's very cliche, but
Yeah.
rather do that. And then um, I mentioned earlier, we did sit down this fall and we had a really big conversation. And they went back through like high school and they went back through how they felt growing up. And I definitely missed a lot of things, Liz.
Mm.
Um, and now they're at a place where they're unsure. They're unsure of where they fit in. They all have
Okay.
they all have friends and they all have jobs and they're doing great, but when it comes to, like, our family or the society in general, they're definitely open about, "I'm not sure if I'm black or white. I'm not sure." People
Mm.
question them, right?
Okay.
And it's not
Yeah.
their hair. Well, your daughter's hair is a much curlier pattern than mine.
Mhm. Mhm.
My one daughter, people ask her if she's Hispanic all the time. My other
Mm.
daughter, nobody assumes she's anything except white. My son, he's like,
Yeah.
"Mom, people just look at me and have no idea. Like, they just truly can't tell." But
Yeah.
nobody asks either. Now, when they were little,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had this, but when they were little in the grocery store and stuff, people would be like, "What are your kids?" Or "What are they?"
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
some people
Mhm.
still, and some people still do ask them, but they're learning the verbiage to advocate for themselves.
Sure.
So I would say we don't, to answer you more directly, we don't necessarily sit down and talk about it all the time, but they are
Sure.
aware of the book. They have been at every step of the way with me. When I had my
Okay.
in-person launch, which was a small group of people, but all of my
Yeah.
kids and my husband all spoke, which I didn't.
Oh,
I know. I had no anticipation that this would
beautiful.
happen. They all talked about what it meant to them and how it has shown up in their lives, and
Yeah.
so I think that the dialogue is open, but it's also not, and I don't think I would want every single time they show up at our house to have a racial conversation. If they
Yeah.
want to, for
Make it
sure.
so heavy.
Correct, right,
Yeah.
yeah, we've gotta have some
Mhm.
laughter and stuff too, but so, yeah, so I think we're in a much better place. That's sort of where I'm going.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, hats off to you to number 1 have that conversation
Thanks.
with the ones on the beach because that's very difficult.
Yep.
You sit there and like, I just don't want to, but I have to and
No.
I do want to, but also it's very uncomfortable. You don't know how they're going to react.
Right.
You don't know if they were intentionally doing it because they saw your family,
Right.
if it was directed at
Could have
you. I
been.
mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but you also like for you to say you're not passing judgment, but maybe you should think about this.
Yeah. And I
Um,
was worried a little bit, Liz, that my kids, so they're no longer but when they were teens, they would roll their eyes because I say hello to everybody. I tend to be that person where I'm like, "Oh, hi,"
sounds like
'cause yeah,
me.
so they a
They're like,
lot of
"Mom, what are you
yes, a
doing
lot of, "Oh,
now?
mom." So
Can we go?"
right, but, you stopped again. So I did pause to think how they would feel, and they, like I said, they were ahead of me. And I didn't have them around me, like, I wasn't trying to put them on the spot. I wanted to
Sure,
be
right.
mindful.
You were like, "They're just enough ahead.
Yes, that
I
I could
think
do
it's
this. And then
comfortable."
when we got to the
Mhm.
car, they're like, "Well, thank you." Like, they appreciated it, and it didn't
Yeah.
land in a bad way. It landed in a very, so I've been doing, and I could give you a couple more examples like that, but it just something small where I can show that I understand better and that I'm here to
Mhm.
advocate for my family. I will never need anybody to advocate for me, Liz. I can walk into any room and never think about, other than she's a woman, like nobody's ever going to think about anything about me, really, except there's another
Yeah.
person. And my kids walk into the room, as yours do too, I'm sure. And they have to wonder what people are thinking. They're thinking,
Mm.
"Oh, well, first of all, we're all tall. So, oh, they're tall. Oh, I wonder what color they are. Oh, well, look at their
Mhm.
hair. Oh,
Mhm.
are they together? Are they married? Are they friends? Are they sisters?" Like all the things and my husband
Yeah.
he's walked into white spaces his whole life. And every
Yeah.
single time had to pause and think, what are they looking at and what are they thinking of me? I have never. So if there is this moment where I can walk in to, or be in a space and recognize it and just
Yeah.
do something. I that's the whole point, like, just do something. And you're right,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
when make a mistake, if they had been mad at me in that particular instance, then I would have had a conversation with them and apologized or figured out why, and then done better the next time,
Mhm.
right? But if I don't try, then I'm really not doing what I'm saying. Like, my words and my actions need to match,
Mhm.
as do most of us in life. It's really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much power in that.
Yep.
And you here being so confident, like I can go in here and you can advocate for your kids,
Yeah.
like, and for your husband and for
Yep.
somebody of a different race. And even though you don't live their experience,
Right.
Joan, you are able to say, this is what I know and what you're doing is wrong, or,
Absolutely.
and say it in a way where it's like, I'm not attacking you, but
Right.
should probably also educate yourself and be more aware of what's happening. Read the room.
Right.
Like,
Read
let's
the
read the
room.
room a little bit
Absolutely.
better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's beautiful. I love it. I definitely get the stares.
Yeah.
I do know it's because my children's mixed. I also do know it because there's 4 little ones trailing behind me,
Yes.
and people we had to go to the mall yesterday because my daughter's art piece is being displayed.
Oh, congratulations.
And yeah, it's so beautiful. Kirsten had hers in there a couple years ago. Um but I just watch the people's
Yeah.
faces, and I walk in and you can see them, like, they'll look, like, at the
Mhm.
twins first, and they're like, "Are they twins? Can't tell if
Yes.
they're twins." And
Yep.
then they see another one coming, and then they're like, "Wait, that one has darker
Yep.
hair, but still the curls." And then the 4th one comes, and their face is, like, blinking, and I'm like, "Are you
So wait,
okay?"
is she the nanny? She must be the nanny. If she must be taking care of that. Like, I feel like there are many times where I was the nanny or the babysitter, and
The nanny.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, nobody,
Yeah.
especially in this area where people do have nannies. And I mean,
Yeah.
I know there were many times where people just like, are those yours or not yours? Right. And Kevin has even said conversely that, him being with them because they're so light skinned would
Mm.
he also could feel people wondering if they were his or if he should have been with them. And that's something I hear from men all the
Ooh,
time is
that is
yeah, so,
true.
like, to even have to
Mhm.
worry about what somebody's thinking when you're with your own child is
Yeah.
heartbreaking, and I've read a couple articles about that where men are like, I'm dark-skinned and my child is light-skinned but biracial," and people just even stop me and try to talk
Yeah.
to me to see if they can get a rise out of me and stuff, and I can't imagine
See if
doing that.
that's their child or
Mhm.
have you kidnapped them,
Yes.
especially if your child is light presenting.
Yes.
One of my twins, she's very light and has much blonder hair,
Yep.
and the curl pattern's not as tight. So she's white presenting to
Yeah.
some people, and it's just like, yeah, that has happened. But I was called the nanny when I lived in the city. I was frequently asked if I was the
There.
nanny.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there have also been a couple things in, like, the school where my kids get picked on because of their hair,
Yes.
and other kids wanting to touch it. That was a
All the
big thing
time.
too, and I had to get my children to advocate for themselves, like,
Yes.
you can tell someone, "Do not touch my hair,"
Right.
especially after you spend an hour moisturizing
So
it
much
and get it
time.
so it doesn't frizz. The
Yes.
last thing, like, you don't even have to make it about race,
Right.
it's about I
It's
just
my
put in so
time
much
and
work.
effort, right.
You're gonna make it frizzy.
Yep,
Like, if you don't understand curly hair, my
right.
mom has a book. You can get a
Get the
copy.
copy of the book, right.
So, but actually, I mean, I am laughing about it now, but that was so
It's
hard for
hard,
me
right.
when it was happening.
Yes.
Kendall, she has really afro hair when it's out, and one kid teased her that she looked like a lion,
Oh
and
my gosh.
I that was so hard for me
Yes.
because she was like first grade. And now she always like slicks it back in a ponytail, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, is that why? And
Oh,
you can wear your hair out.
right.
Kirsten, who's 11, I I used to love braiding her hair,
Yeah.
and she always wanted braided or she wanted it down, not she's like, my hair gets too big, it gets too voluminous. And now she wears it out so big. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
the day I have been praying for, and she gets so many compliments on
Yes.
it.
That's
She really does.
she just
And I'm just
rocks
like,
it.
yeah, she does, and I'm like, "Yay."
Good.
So, it's beautiful to watch. I love all of this. Well, we're getting close to the end here.
Yeah.
What are we missing from the book, Navigating Two Worlds? What other highlights are there that we have to look forward to?
I think what I am excited for people to read is the stories that I have. Each chapter has stories from the other women, some of the other women I've spoken to. So really, kind of
Mm,
connecting the dots, and all different ages and all different generations. And so I'm excited to share that. And then at the end of each chapter, I have just a little lesson that I've learned, not only from those people but also from what I was writing. So I think that's an exciting part of the book. And then the second to last chapter is sort of tips and tricks. So things like you asked me about, how do you do this and what do you say? And I am
yeah.
not the expert, and I've shared with you, I'm not a DEI expert. I am the expert of my own lived experience, and the things
Yes.
that I've tried that have worked is what I want to pass on to people. If it didn't work, it's either in there and I said it doesn't work, or I didn't put
Yeah.
it in there. But it's okay.
Yeah.
Trial and error, right? And we're going to fail, and we're going to, like you said earlier, I'm going to say something incorrect, and I know that, but I did try to put some of that in the book for people to have as a resource. And then
So good.
the other
So
thing,
needed.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping, and it's interesting, Liz, I started this in 2020, and it's taken me all this time to write it and get it out to the world. And you and I have talked, but I kept thinking, oh well, the time is past. Nobody's talking about this anymore. And I kept pushing back on it and thinking, how am I going to have this conversation? But I think it's actually the right time again, or still, and it probably never
Yeah.
passed. It's just my focus. So this is always going to be a conversation that is needed, and I want people to know that it's okay to try. And also, one quick tidbit, I think we talk about being colorblind, and I just want to
Mm.
caution people that colorblind isn't okay, that the color of somebody's skin brings with it an entire history. It brings a life. It brings, ancestry. And
Yeah.
I feel like if people could look at every person that they see in the grocery store and see their color, and then curiously wonder, wow, what's that person's story? What brings them to where they are now? Um, we would all be in a better place, I think, if we were more curious
Mm.
about others in that way, and find what we can love about somebody standing in front of us, instead of wondering if they're bad or good. Like that, it doesn't matter. They are a person who have an entire history just like you do. And so I think that's something that I hope people take away from this, is just that piece of loving others unconditionally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. And I'm sure your faith and your love and your heart being poured into it is just all over the book, and people can learn to take bits and pieces, integrate it in
Yes.
their life. I love that you added that, where it's like you're so honest, you're so humble about,
Thank
this is my journey. This is my lived experience. I am sharing it. I am no expert. And honestly, like, who really is an expert? I know
you. That's
there's
a
so
good
many
point.
people out there. I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in this,
Right.
but life is so on a continuum where
Right.
it's always changing and things are being looked at different ways. And even doctors, scientists are wrong at
Yes.
times. It's
Yeah.
like,
That's
we
true.
can be wrong. It's okay for us to be wrong. It's okay for us to learn. There's going to be haters out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, for sure.
That is okay. One of my mentors always says, like, I feel bad. I he doesn't get mad at the comments anymore, because he's
Yeah.
like, I genuinely feel bad that that person isn't leading with love
Right.
and they're chewing other people apart.
Right.
They literally have nothing better to do
Right.
than to leave you that terrible
Yep.
comment about what you're doing, and you're living in your purpose. And you know that because this has been on your heart for so long.
So long, right, and I think you're right, I don't know that I could have handled that, though, years ago, right? Like, again,
So
why this
true.
is
Same.
now, yeah, now
Yeah.
I can understand it. I don't love it any better, but it isn't going to get under my skin like it would have years ago. So I think it's just all timing. God has his way,
Perfect.
and yep, perfect timing always. Yep,
Perfect
yep.
timing. So beautiful. I'm glad we've
Yeah,
reconnected.
you.
Like, life has just, we got together, kind of fell off a little bit, and our timing is coming back again, and it's just
Is.
it's so beautiful. I love watching this journey for you, where you're going, where you're glowing.
No.
What do we have to look forward to? Any events,
Yeah.
speaking, anything else coming up?
Yeah, so I'm manifesting now that one day I'm gonna sit on the Today Show couch and talk about this book. So I'm just saying that. It's not happening, but
Yes, it's
it's
happening.
happening. Craig Melvin is married to Lindsay, who is white, and so I have this goal of one day sitting on the couch of the Today Show. But while I'm waiting to get there,
Yes, might
I'm
be sooner rather than later.
maybe I'm putting it out into the universe. But while I'm sitting, I do have so coming up May the 6th, I'm sorry, I'm going to be doing a book talk at Maryland Hall in Annapolis, which is a
Oh,
beautiful art installation building down in Annapolis. They do all of the arts and frequently do book talks. So I'll be doing that. And then on June 11th, I believe, I'm going to be doing a Loving Day talk with another author who wrote a book about interracial marriages. And we're going to be at the Ivy Bookstore in Baltimore. And we're going to do a book talk together about leading us into Loving Day, which is June 12th. So those are the two big ones on the
yes.
horizon. And of course, nothing more important than your podcast, because I've been waiting and so excited to be here with you.
Yay!
And I'm hoping to be on, other podcasts. I did start a podcast. I give you, again, all the credit in the world because I did 2 seasons of it. And then I was like,
Yeah.
that is so much work. So good on you. My people can listen to my podcast on my website that I did interview
Yes.
the people that I spoke about earlier. Most of them are interviewed on the podcast, but I give you all the credit in the world because this is a heavy lift and you do it with such grace. So
Oh,
congratulations
thank
on that.
you.
Yeah. So
It's so much fun,
it
and I
really is.
love chatting and connecting
Yeah.
and reconnecting and hearing all the amazing things, especially that women are building
Yes.
and creating.
Yes.
I thrive. It's like having a good conversation with a friend over coffee,
Yep.
which we need to do
Okay. We
again.
will
We
do
need
that
to set
again.
that up. We need a repeat. So awesome. I'm going to include all of the links. I
Okay.
believe your book is on Amazon,
Yeah.
and I'll put all your socials
Yep. I'm just
into the
I'll
description.
send you the website. It's joanmgreen.com. It's really easy. And it does have all the links to buy the book. It has I do have in there a book club guide. So if anybody would want to use this book to start a book club, or as part of a book club, if you're already in one, it's just a guide to get the conversation started. I also have a free resource, which is a list of books and articles that I've read or tried to read, some shows that Kevin and I
Mm.
have watched that we found really impactful. So that is there if you wanted to get that for free. And then there's what is the other? There's also just a convert. So the question you asked me a little while ago about like what did the conversation look like with my husband? I do have a link to a conversation starter, and that is just to
Oh,
help
great.
people who don't even know where to begin the conversation. Even if you're in a home that isn't interracial and you just want to start talking about race with people, um, these questions, there's about 12 questions that you could pick and choose from to help you and you use your own words. My words aren't your words, but at least you'd be like, oh, I could say this and get started,
Mm.
safely open a conversation. So those things are all on my website for free as well.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you so
You're
much,
welcome.
Joan.
Thanks.
I do ask every
Mm.
guest on the podcast if she elevates. If there's one final message you have for the listeners,
Yep.
what would that message be?
So my message, and this is the golden thread through my book and through my life right now too, is from Maya Angelou, and it is do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better. I think we all owe it to ourselves and each other for that. So
Perfect way to wrap it up. I love that
thank
so
you.
much.
Of
Thank you for sharing that.
course.
It's been an awesome chat
Yeah.
with you today, Joan. I'm so proud of you and everything you have accomplished.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for being so open to share your story, being vulnerable, and you're making such a change in the world, although it might be like one little ripple effect at a time.
Mhm.
Even going back to those people you spoke on the beach, they might have went home and had conversations, or
So,
it's changed their dialogue. Like, so powerful, so powerful.
thank
So
you.
thank you for this.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I've loved every minute of it.
I created something powerful for the woman who's tired of playing small. If you're done surviving and you're ready to rise, this is for you. It's called the She Elevates Blueprint, a 7-day transformational guide to help you reclaim your power, reset your mindset, and redesign your life from the inside out. We're talking confidence, clarity, boundaries, money, love, healing, purpose, every area of your life. Each day, you'll get a journal prompt, an aligned action, an affirmation, and a voice note from me, yours truly. So it feels like I'm right there cheering you on. You're going to feel seen. You're going to feel grounded. And by day 7, you won't even recognize you. If you've been waiting for a sign to elevate your life, this is it. Tap the link, download your free copy of the She Elevates Blueprint, and let's step into your next level together. You're not alone. You're not broken. You're becoming. Let's rise, my queen. Thank you for tuning in to the She Elevates podcast. I hope today's episode poured into you, reminded you of your power, and gave you something to take with you on this journey of elevation. Share it with a friend, your sister, your tribe, because when one of us rises, we all rise. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review. It helps more women find this movement and step into their highest self. Want more? Come hang with me over on Instagram at Liz Rankin Elevates, or join our free She Elevates community on Facebook, where we heal, grow, and glow together. Until next time, remember this: you're not behind, You're not broken, you're becoming. Keep rising, Queen. Your next level is already calling.